5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Please do not change channel.
From Krypton Radio, brought to you by Famous Faces and Funnies and Off the Chain with Yvonne Mason, it's the Hangin With Web Show Radio Hour, the Internet's premier pop culture talk radio show. You're tuned in, you're logged on, and now your hosts, GW Pomichter and Christian Basel. Who you hanging with?
Hello, Krypton Radio. Welcome to the Hangin With Web Show Radio Hour. I'm GW Pomichter.
And I'm Christian Basel. Hello, iHeartRadio, and everybody who's listening out there on anything that they listen to us on. iTunes, everything.
That's right. You can listen to us all over the World Wide Web. You can go to iTunes. You can go to iHeartRadio, Krypton Radio right now. If you're listening to this, you're listening to Krypton Radio.
I listen on a Walkman.
A Walkman. Wow.
Carol, you are so 1992, it's not even funny.
Oh, my. We are here tonight. We did a whole episode way back in the day, which was a Thursday.
1992.
Almost. It was almost 1992. It was 2017, which is very close. Or 2018. It was one of those two. It's very close to 1992, but not.
It is relative.
Relatively close.
Relative.
So, we did a whole episode on cosplay, and we reached out at that time, and these guys were just incredibly, incredibly busy. But we are going to have tonight, we're going to have the team from Cosplayer Nation. And that's going to be a great conversation. These guys did a great documentary film on cosplay that dives into the history of cosplay, the motivations for cosplay, and it's a great one. This is a great topic as we go into MegaCon weekend.
Dun-dun.
So we're prepared. We're mentally preparing for the visual overload that we're going to be experiencing at MegaCon. So before we dive into our topic, we have our own Sage Ia with some pop culture news. She gets such a kick out of her own theme music. Go ahead.
We paid a lot of money for that. You know?
Yeah,
we did. Yeah.
It came out of my budget.
We busted the budget to get you your own theme music. So
thanks to you, I can't get extra cheese on my Whopper this week. Thanks.
All of you made a great point. Speaking of busting the budget, because that's what I'm going to talk about first up.
Busting the budget in the news. Yes.
Deadpool 2. Do you know that Deadpool 2 dethroned Infinity War for box office records?
Nice. Opening night, right?
Yes, $125 million for domestic. And wait, Christian, wait. 301 million globally opening weekend.
$301 million opening weekend.
Global.
Nice.
So you're saying that one X-Men took down an entire fleet of Avengers. Thanos has got nothing on this.
That's right.
The merc with the mouth took Thanos down.
That's
wow.
Exactly right. That's right. $300 million in an opening weekend. Wow. I can live on that. If I have to.
I can live on $3 million.
I'll take, or $3.63, whatever.
There you go.
Comes first. Yeah.
It works.
It works.
It does.
It does. What else you got in the news? My goodness, though, that's quite a haul. What else you got in the news?
Well, wait a minute. Before we go on, so remember I was kidding last week about what if Deadpool did kick Avengers' butt? And I want to point out that and I put this on my Facebook page, and everybody was like, "Yeah, no, that's not going to happen." And like CNN.com put it out, and was like, "Oh, yeah, they did." But it's not in the big way. But yeah, it dethroned Avengers. It took the number one spot.
Christian was right.
Yes, Christian.
So I want some of that $300 million. Thank you.
That's right. And but it's a big deal. It's a big deal because it's as Christian said, it's not quite a single X-Men because there is the
X-Force,
in there, but it's still it's still a rated R superhero movie.
Yes, for an R-rated movie, it's unprecedented.
Yes, it is, and they're well on their way to beating their own record for overall grosses for a movie like that. So that's fantastic. What else you got, kid?
Well, wait a minute. Well, the other thing is that it didn't beat the #1 rated R movie.
No.
It did not, which is it's its predecessor, Deadpool, the original. So
That's
Deadpool
right.
and
Well,
Deadpool 2
it will
take the top 2 spots in the R-rated section.
Yeah, well,
That's funny.
Now the numbers we quoted last week were for the #1 rated R superhero movie of all times, but that was a total gross. So they are halfway there in their opening weekend. So by the time they're done, they might beat their own record, which will be just outstanding. That's amazing. And a lot of what we talked about last week was the marketing for this film, and how important it was, and how much of it they did. So, hats off over there, man. They really cleaned house. So, hit us again.
Well, more news. I'm going to stay in the Marvel universe for a moment, okay? And in Captain Marvel, right?
Yeah.
Agent Phil Coulson from S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to be making an appearance. Yay!
Yay! Yes, especially in that he was not having a very nice time the last time I saw him, and not just in the Marvel movies, but I watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Tahiti's a magical place.
Tahiti is a magical place.
I'm sorry, he's the new Kenny of South Park for Avengers now.
Yeah, he is. He's he's Coulson,
you bastard.
Yeah, that's really cool, and it'll be good to see Clark Gregson back on the big screen, so that'll be fantastic. So, but yeah, I just got done watching this season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It was fun, those last 3 episodes, because of all of the allusion to Infinity War. Although I was waiting to just see somebody in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. just flake away to ash, but it didn't happen.
Yes, but it was still very sad.
It would have been. It would have been. It was still. They did have a real down week, though.
Yes,
I will say that.
I don't want to give any spoilers, but it was very sad for me.
Are we still in spoiler mode for Avengers: Infinity War?
I don't think you really can be anymore. I mean, the universe has done what the universe has done at this point. It's all out there for everyone to see. Every meme, every joke. Probably half of the movie exists in a YouTube video that's 5 minutes or less. In a series of those. I mean, it's out there everywhere. So, any other news there, Miss H?
I do. I have some really cool things that are coming up.
Okay.
One of them they haven't given a date for, but has anybody heard about? Now, Amazon has been sinking millions of dollars because they want to do like a Game of Thrones type of thing, right?
Okay.
And they are coming out with a Lord of the Rings series, and it's called One Ring.
I haven't heard that. That's kind of cool.
Yes. Right? And so it's supposed to focus on the journey of young Aragorn. Sorry.
Huh.
I lost a little bit of my sci-fi cred there.
Yeah, you did.
But they have committed. They've committed to like 5 seasons, and they've been sinking millions of dollars into this. Amazon
seasons.
Original series, yes.
Wow.
Called One Ring.
That's going to be something else.
It would be awesome.
Do we have any details yet? Directors or
No.
anything coming down? We have to keep watching for it.
We just have to keep watching for it, but that's what's come out.
Nice.
I think that's pretty sweet.
That is pretty sweet.
Well, because the rest of us know Game of Thrones is going to come out in 2019, and so maybe this will be the next best thing to watch after we're all just, decimated.
Yes.
When Game of Thrones is over.
Yeah. So, wow. Well, you always go back to the classic, right? Tolkien is certainly the master of epic fantasy, so it's the place to go for content. That's fantastic.
Well, we have some other things coming.
We do.
Yes, we do.
What are they? What things?
ABC's Freeform, coming up in June, is going to come out with Cloak and Dagger.
Marvel's Cloak and Dagger. That's right.
Exactly right.
I saw that. I saw the previews.
They look good, huh?
Yeah.
It is. It's great. ABC Freeform does a really great job of bringing a lot of our superhero content to life for young people and young adults. And
now, what is Freeform? Because I've seen the channel, but I've never understood it. What is Freeform?
Well, Freeform. A few years back, I know many of our listeners will remember a few years back when the universe changed its broadcast nature to HD. And when that happened, many channels, because of the nature of frequencies in radio frequencies and such, many channels ended up with multiple sub-channels. So maybe you had, channel 6 on the cable dial, but when you started broadcasting in HD, you ended up with 6, 6.1, 6.2, 6.3.
Right.
ABC's answer to that was smaller sub-networks within the network, Freeform being one of them. And, of course, at that same time was the big ABC Disney, collision. And so
it's almost like sci-fi for adults at Disney.
Yeah, Freeform has a lot of their fantasy sci-fi content.
Okay.
Everything
Adult Swim, kind of.
Sort of, yeah. And so when these
in the sense of the audience.
Yeah. So when these sub-channels popped up, big companies, especially ABC Disney, it doesn't get much bigger, they filled those channels with fresh content. Instead of being just another format, they did all new content. So Freeform and ABC, it's an ABC's offshoot, and they place a lot of superhero and fantasy content on there, and including, I think, I want to say that's where they are still holding in their streaming service things like Constantine, and those things are still there. Birds of Prey from back in the day.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. You can still see all of that stuff under ABC Freeform.
The Fox Bird of Prey?
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. I wasn't too impressed with it. I thought it had a great premise. It just didn't.
Well, I mean, they were way ahead of their time. This was, they kind of came in and introduced the concept of, superheroes without tights.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I will tell you right now: the oldest sci-fi comic book television show was back in the early '90s called Generation X. If you remember that,
yes. Oh, yes. And these are shows that they really popped out. And they, you would have expected, especially from the sci-fi geekdom, from our community, you would have expected them to do much better. And today they would probably do really well. They would have a whole experienced team of writers and directors and people who loved this genre. But back then, they were breaking new ground. And so some things fizzled, some things went really big. By the time Birds of Prey got anything that was recognizable, sadly, it was like the end of their season, and they were already canceled. So they didn't have time. And so, I remember those early attempts at bringing this into mainstream. And especially out there on Krypton Radio and iHeartRadio and people who are listening to the show, you remember the days when it wasn't chic to be geek in the mainstream. And now you compare that with today and the work that's being done, and it's night and day.
Well, here you go. You want to hear something a lot of fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something
you got
that's
fun?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Because something that's coming to theaters this summer.
Okay.
Right? And it's great because it ties right into our cosplay.
Okay.
Because it's an anime manga series that everybody loves, and it's Sailor Moon.
Okay.
Right? Guardian of Love and Justice, and that's coming to theaters July 28th.
Coming to the big screen.
To the U.S. on July 28th.
Animated?
Anime manga. Animated.
Anime manga. Awesome.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
Sailor Moon. And I have seen so many awesome cosplays and crossovers and mashups.
Oh, yeah.
So that's going to be amazing.
And very strange mashups, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Very
fantastic.
Strange.
Okay, so, wow.
I know.
That is. I'm looking, again, there's so much content coming out now, and most of it is being done so well that it's amazing to think back and think, there was a time when there was a struggle at a network, and there was a lot of stuff that you had to do to bring us a superhero story or to bring us an anime story that wasn't, kind of a tertiary media. And now it's everywhere. It's amazing, and
I used to love Saber Rider. That was my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Every morning at 6 a.m. I used to watch Saber Rider before school.
Nice.
Wow.
I just dated myself, didn't I?
Yeah, a little bit. That's okay.
It's worse for me. It's worse for me. I did not get into. I thought when I first got my taste of Japanese animation for the very first time, there were shows like All Star Blazers and Voltron, and I thought, well, wow, this is a little weirder than the more, the American cartoons I have, and like these are really, in some cases, kind of disturbing. Yeah, and I just never got onto the manga train.
Well, it's interesting. Anime is really born out of post-World War II Japan, and its attempt to maintain its cultural integrity and westernize at the same time. And animation was one of the places where they were able to do that very, very successfully. This is a great time. We're in the anime world, which is where the term, by the way, not the actual pastime of cosplay, but where the term cosplay comes from. And so it's a great time to segue into our fantastic guests. We have on the show tonight. We have from Cosplayer Nation. We have Joshua Adams.
Which you heard a little bit of earlier.
That's right, Joshua. How you doing tonight, man? And we also have Katrina Texador. Hello, everybody. You guys are like one of the hottest growing things on the internet right now with Cosplayer Nation. Not just the documentary, but it's become a hub for cosplayers and cosplay fans to be around. It's been a whole new media outlet for cosplayers. So, Josh, did you ever think you'd get this far when you guys were planning? I don't know if Josh. I know Josh is on the line. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's on mute.
Yeah,
we're having some technical difficulties.
No problem. How about Katrina? How long have you worked with the guys over at Cosplayer Nation?
For probably over a year and a half right now. Probably about a year and a half or so.
How'd you guys get linked up?
We actually got linked up before I actually even opened up my company. I was sort of promoting and marketing people privately, and then through the grapevine, I found their network and started kind of being a part of what they did as a fan. And then I believe it was you that approached me originally to become an admin, and the rest was history.
Wow, that's fantastic. Oh. We had the good fortune of linking up with the guys about a year and a half ago, and getting to talk to them about Cosplayer Nation, the documentary, and the work that went into that. But I've watched the community at Cosplayer Nation grow and grow, and it really, again, we can all remember in our youth when pop culture was subculture, and what is today's pop culture was subculture, and it has become an amazing turnaround to see all of those fantastic things that we enjoy, from our cosplay to our popular culture icons today, mainstream and become popular culture. One of the things we were struck by early on when we first watched Cosplayer Nation, the documentary, was how far back cosplay goes. And I don't know if Josh, are you back on the line yet? Are you able to get back on?
Yeah.
Katrina?
On a side for Katrina, sure. She puts me to absolute shame, because when we first started meeting up on the social media, she was putting out all these pictures of her working out and everything while I'm sitting there on my lunch hour eating a cheeseburger or a taco. I'm just like, she looks great. It's like, maybe I should get off my butt and get working out. So
it is. It's we've been following Katrina now for quite a while, and she's doing a lot of work on the cosplay circuit and keeping everybody kind of on their toes. We are going to take just 2 minutes and go to a little break and say thank you to our partners and our friends and the folks that help us do the show every week. And hopefully when we come back, maybe Josh will be back on the air with us. All right. So stay tuned in, stay logged on, and see who we're hanging with
next.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
Channeling the Mothership is an exciting journey into the higher mysteries. Certified psychic medium and clairvoyant Jerry McDaniel's readings, writings, and messages have been received by thousands of people in more than 45 countries. These messages have been obtained by channeling his higher self. How does he do it? Is it a blessing or a curse? And what lay beyond the reach of your five senses? These mysteries and so much more are examined in this explosive book, Channeling the Mothership. Explore the mysteries of the spiritual and the metaphysical. Channeling the Mothership by author Jerry McDaniel. Available on Amazon.com today.
Greetings, true believers. This is absolutely, positively not Stan Lee, reminding you that you are listening to Krypton Radio. Krypton? That's the other guys. It's sci-fi for your Wi-Fi. Excelsior!
Know what happened.
All right, Krypton Radio, we are back on the air, and we are joined now. We've been working out our technical difficulties during the commercial break, and we're joined now by Joshua Adams from Cosplayer Nation. Josh, welcome back, man.
Thank you very much. I do apologize. I don't know what happened, actually. Maybe there was some freak radio accident and some MIB flashed my quote-unquote cell phone.
No, Thanos got you. Thanos got you big time.
That's right. Thanos is after him.
Or better yet, I'm trapped in Doctor Who, the American version of Doctor Who's TARDIS.
Hard to get a signal. Josh, we were talking a little bit earlier about Cosplayer Nation and the journey that you guys have been on from those early days, planning and shooting and putting out Cosplayer Nation, the documentary, but also you become a hub, a media hub for cosplayers and the cosplay community. So in those early days when you guys were first putting everything together, did you think you'd get this far? Did you think that cosplayers would come and people would come to you guys to learn about cosplay and the universe that you've created? Did you think you'd ever get this far?
Yes, actually. When we first sat down,
but I like it.
I know. I was about to say. Yes. I do want to be mean. I was like, everybody I've heard say, no, we would never get this far. We never dreamt of it. Like, yeah,
right. What was your first clue, Josh, that you guys were destined for something bigger and better?
Well, when we first opened up what we were doing, I set up the YouTube, the MySpace, the Facebook, the Twitter, the Tumblr, you name it. Because I knew that with the name synonymous of cosplayer, that we would have a decent-sized media company. I didn't believe that we would explode beyond that until our first true...
Someone's getting a phone call.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay. This is a busy guy. This is a busy guy that's on the air with us tonight.
We're just on iHeartRadio.
Yeah. So, anyways, when we first started off, I set the YouTube channel and that sort of stuff. When we first put out the first footage and that sort of stuff, way back when, in the good old 2010.
Back in the old days.
When I was a kid, we only had CDs. We didn't have laser discs.
We just had VHS.
We had VHS, and we were happy with it. Yeah, so when we first started off, I thought, I knew that we would get into somewhat, we would be able to be as big as we possibly could be, with a name that is really, really solid. To have a solid name is one of the greatest things out there. And I actually did research back then to find out if it was taken.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, we've been following you guys for quite some time. We first reached out to you and chatted with you guys a year and a half ago or so. And we were struck by the initial film, by the documentary, and we were struck by the fact that when you guys dove into cosplay, you did more than dive into it as a pastime or a hobby. You dove into it as an art form with a history, and a rich history at that. Can you give us a little peek of that for those folks out on the radio right now who are wondering a little bit about where did this thing come from, this cosplay thing? Josh, can you give us a little bit of a preview of the film and of all the hard work that Cosplayer Nation has done?
Of course. Now, with the documentary, me and my business partner, Mr. Oakley, wanted to, over a bowl of clam chowder at Legal Seafoods, thought of creating something that would be neutral. I thought it would take us a year to do, but it took us 3 years in the making. And throughout the 3 years of making this documentary, I did some research before we even started doing the documentary about how long cosplay has been around. Now, I know that cosplay has been around for a very long time. I mean, if you think of Halloween, the first Halloween parties, the first Halloween stuff was back in the early 19th century. So it grew up from Halloween. Now, I thought it would start off in the 1950s, possibly the 30s, that sort of stuff. What we didn't realize that it was starting off really at the first sci-fi convention ever to exist. And now it's called WorldCon. Yep. And one guy just dressed up as a character from like a Buck Rogers.
We saw that photo in the documentary. We saw you guys when you rolled that in, and I thought, wow, man, that was really something to see that. You know, the cosplay got the name, I know, fairly recently, but that cosplay has been a thing. In a pop culture staple in our community since its inception. Since we've been going to conventions, it's been there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we thought we should educate, education and that sort of stuff. By doing education and doing a documentary of the positives and the history of cosplay to broaden people's minds, because some people themselves, this is not just for cosplayers. This is for people that think cosplay might be a fad. So we wanted to create something that you could show your mom and pop that this is what the true history of what has happened. And it happened, cosplay itself, the word was costume play. Now, a Japanese sci-fi magazine writer back in the 80s, I'm hoping I'm getting his name right, I do apologize, name of Nobuyuki Takahashi, couldn't write costume play in Japanese. So what do Japanese do? They abbreviate and jam two words together to create a new word. Just like anime, American-style animation.
Yep.
Anime.
Yep.
And not a lot of people realize this, but Transformers back in the 80s, is actually anime.
Oh yeah,
in American style.
Yeah, we had early Transformers, and then of course throughout the 80s and early 90s, anime just became bigger and bigger, even in American markets with things like Robotech, and these were great early products. Imports, if you will. But again, the word cosplay is an import, and it has stuck, and it is now a vast part of our community in the sci-fi fantasy world, and throughout pop culture now, of course, especially now that many, many, many properties are working their way onto cinema screens and small screens and television, and now people are starting to enjoy the same things that we've always had, and cosplay is one of those things. And Katrina, as a cosplayer yourself, you've seen a lot of that acceptance grow over the past several years. What's that been like as a performer and a cosplayer?
Well, at first, when you mentioned, hey, I do this, and that, and then I also do cosplay, there was a time, even just a few years ago, where people would look at me and say, what's that? Or, when I would explain it, they'd be like, oh, they wouldn't exactly get it. Now, not only do they get it, they say, oh, that's great, and they appreciate it. So now that we've had And I can credit, I think, the DC and the Marvel movies, the X-Men movies to a degree from it being all so popular and mainstream. It's not unheard of anymore. It's almost mainstream. So whereas something like this that I would mention before would almost make me an outcast among certain people, now it's almost something that intrigues them more and is a conversation piece.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And, as we said, we've seen this grow from being subculture to pop culture. One of the earliest examples of cosplay that was considered almost mainstream, but you can actually feel how subculture it was. Some of the earliest cosplay in the pop culture medium was regular theater patrons at the old Rocky Horror Picture Shows.
The late night double feature.
Mm-hmm.
That's right, and that was very much a subculture. It was something that was there, but later on, so much so that it's now one of the things we celebrate when we go to pop culture conventions is the success of Rocky Horror over the long haul
and accuracy of costumes.
Yes,
and I want to put in is that. Cosplay itself, if you think about it, is going back since the Stone Age. Theaters and things like that. We could
outside theater. Yeah.
We could do a Ken Burns 2-hour 20 DVD box set all about cosplay.
Yeah, as both a hobby, as a profession. That's what outdoor theater. That's what early Greek theater was. It was cosplay with a point, and then later on, we took that into the European masquerades. We took that, later on.
Even with what we call the garments, the priests, and that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
The Native Americans to get towards the gods. I can't remember. I know. It was in the Midwest, the Kachinas, and that sort of stuff. I'm not trying to diss any tribe or any Native American.
No, it does. It speaks to the rich cultural imperative that we have to emulate what we admire most, whether it is a modern superhero, whether it is a favorite fictional character, or whether it is the angels and demons and gods of old. It's ingrained in us as storytellers, as human beings, to emulate the things that we most admire or fear. And what you're talking about with ancient Native Americans and tribal societies is just that, to wear ceremonial headgear or ceremonial dress, or to emulate a god or goddess or demon. These are the things that are the way we pass stories from generation to generation, from person to person, and cosplay is a modern derivation of that need to express our admiration.
Do you know that Henry VIII actually dressed up with his court as Robin Hood because he admired him so much, and that was the only time that he could actually express his love of that?
All right, for fun, we're gonna go from the first Worldcon. We have to now. We're going to go back and we have to credit Henry VIII as one of the original cosplayers because that's just cool.
And speaking of which, there was a female. We didn't know about this until way afterwards. There was a female cosplayer there too.
At
the first sci-fi.
Yeah, I think I remember reading that on y'all's site after we watched the documentary and we saw the pictures of the gentleman. I think I remember reading that you said it was actually. Was it a couple or because I want to say wasn't it a couple?
I think so. It's been so long since I've had to dig into the archives per se, but I think it was a couple.
Well, for those folks out on the radio right now, we want to let y'all know it was Mr. Skyjack from Mars was that first gentleman's cosplay, and so we just looked that up.
And Miss Dill Pickles.
Just
saying.
Which,
Who doesn't want to dress up like a pickle?
Apparently, somebody did. Okay, guys. So, Joshua, are you a cosplayer yourself?
I'm a gherkin.
Well, I'm not that much of a cosplayer. I mean, I was cosplaying a little bit as a kid. I mean, I did Halloween. I did some other things. But as one of the few people, per se, I was the outsider looking in, per se.
Yeah. Cosplay is certainly, it can be a spectator sport because it is fun to watch. It is a great thing to observe. Here at the Hangin' With Web Show, none of us so far are cosplayers, except for we have our own mini cosplayer. We have Cosplay Michael.
Oh, come on. You cosplay yourselves all the time when you're on the radio.
I can't share this costume. Never mind.
I'm not going to dress up like Sage. I will never do her justice. That's never going to happen.
It's all in the ponytails. I'm just saying.
It's all in the ponytail?
That's right.
And the way I walk.
Katrina, I want to go to you. So we've seen several of your cosplays. You're an amazing cosplayer. What do you think is the most unusual or one of the least recognizable cosplays that you do that you'd like to share with us?
I would say that would be a toss-up between the Amy Comey Batgirl and the Jessie Quick from the TV show. Just because, surprisingly not everybody knows that there was a Jessie Quick character on the TV show. I haven't seen this.
I was going to say, do you get a lot of people that walk up? Oh, look, it's a girl Flash.
Yeah, they're like, great gender bend costume, and I'm like, technically I could say that, and it's like, that's what some people think that I'm, doing just the girl version. I'm like, no, there's a character who is a female sidekick, just I get the same kind of questions when it comes to Batgirl versus Batwoman, because I do Batgirl, but people call me Batwoman. I'm like, well, yes, I know I'm a woman who's dressed like a bat, but there's a character called Batwoman. It's a different thing. But I would say the Amy Comey Batgirl, which I also call my Tron Batgirl, because it looks basically like amalgam of Tron and Batgirl put together if you see it. But it's based on the Amy Comey line, which is an anime version of the DC female characters, your major female characters that you think of, like, Wonder Woman, Supergirl, Batgirl. There's even a Jessie Quick one, I believe. So they're all the kind of big DC females. They have an anime line, and they're pretty cool looking. That one is under commission again. I had an issue with some of it getting broken by a very drunk but happy fan who came up and hugged me, and I was
hey, that was a mistake. I didn't mean to do that.
Christian.
I was just a little, Yeah.
Oh God!
I was like, wait a minute, and boom, it broke. So, I have to fix some pieces of it. Plus, like armor, I realized afterwards, armor is pretty hard to wear. I got to about like 20 minutes in that thing, and I was sweating so much I needed to take a break. It's not easy. That's kind of the thing where, like, in the future, I'd probably do closed off in a photo shoot, kind of not walking around a convention type thing.
Yeah.
So it makes me have a newfound respect to certain other people. For example, I saw a cosplayer that did a full Thanos costume, and he must have been wearing stilts, but you couldn't tell because it was covered up by the actual costume. It looked like he must have been like almost 7 feet tall.
Wow.
That's amazing.
We have to take another break for our partners and our friends. When we come back, we're going to find out how our cosplayer feels when her costumes aren't recognized immediately. And we're going to find out from our Cosplayer Nation creator what the inspiration for telling a story about cosplay is. We'll do that when we come back, but until then, stay tuned in, stay logged on, see who we're hanging with next.
Hi, I'm Cosplay Michael with the Hangin' With Web Show, and you're listening to Krypton Radio. And remember, cosplay's for everyone.
How you doing, everybody? This is KG Bethlehem. I'm an author of a new book called Certain Moments of Time. It's a collection of short stories. These short stories range from post-apocalyptic, dystopian, anti-utopia, as well as general fiction. You can find Certain Moments of Time on sale at Amazon.com, where you can purchase the ebook format as well as paperback format. You can also purchase it at Lulu.com, paperback format, and will be on sale soon at BarnesandNoble.com.
In the summer of 1953, private investigator Will Lucky Marks was working as the in-house private eye for Arcane Pacific Pictures. Trapped inside the studio with the killer, Lucky must find the killer before time runs out. Lot 28. Own it today. Available iTunes and Amazon.com.
The Hanging With Web Show Radio Hour on Krypton Radio, bringing you the very best in pop culture talk radio. Each Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, the Hanging With Web Show Radio Hour with your hosts GW Pomichter and Christian Basel, who are hanging with rising pop culture newcomers as well as superstar icons. The Hanging With Web Show Radio Hour. Tune in Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Who are you hanging with?
Welcome back, Krypton Radio. I'm GW Pomichter.
I'm Christian Basel. If anybody wants to cosplay me, please don't.
Yeah, no.
I don't want to scare anybody out of the convention.
That's the cosplay with no pants.
I want to be a fire
Cosplay with no pants. All right. We're here on the air tonight. We have been talking to some fantastic creative minds from Cosplayer Nation. We've got Joshua Adams from Cosplayer Nation, and we have Katrina Texador from also from Cosplayer Nation, but Katrina does cosplay marketing online. You can check her out on Facebook, and we're going to make sure those links end up in the description of these shows. And we've been talking about the history of cosplay, its evolution from early days into a fairly common pastime. Again, not just at Halloween, guys. You can find these people at any convention, at movie premieres. You can find them all over the place. Some fantastic creators putting together some amazing cosplays. And we talked earlier about those cosplay mishaps. When you put a lot of work into a cosplay build, and sometimes there are mishaps, and fans get a little over exuberant, etc., and you find out that your cosplays break and things like that. But for all of the work that you put in, we're going to hit Katrina first with this. All the work that you put in, all the time that you put in, and then you get to where you're going, and you're doing your best. You're putting the play in cosplay, and you've just got people coming up going, "Who are you?" What are some of your best stories when people just didn't recognize a cosplay or didn't kind of get what you were doing, Katrina?
I would say for the most part, you get are you doing a girl version of Batman? Because I do a lot of Batgirl, and a lot of people don't know that your character actually exists, but they know kind of where the universe is from. You just kind of go like, no, actually, this is the character. She's actually been around for that long, and I sort of add a little bit of information about it because I realize that because this is so mainstream now, there's going to be plenty of people who really don't know anything about this. They just want to go to a convention as their first experience. And it wouldn't be fair to me to necessarily assume that they should know that. And as far as I'm concerned, I want people to be on board. So I make it as easy as possible to kind of give them some information and kind of let them go, maybe I should look into this character. And especially because I think she's a great role model for young girls. I tell everybody about Batgirl because she's one of my favorite characters. And obviously if I'm cosplaying a different character, I'll give them some information about that. But I think it's good also for people to be less judgmental about that too, and maybe understand maybe not everybody will have that knowledge too.
Absolutely. Now, Joshua, you you in your research and telling the story of the evolution and expanse of cosplay, you got to really be an up-close observer to the societal acceptance of cosplay and of the characters that are cosplays. You also got to learn about all the obscure characters that are cosplayed, etc. What was that like for you watching, and 3 years putting this program together? What was it like for you watching and seeing how we went, from that subculture genre or those things that, no one talked about, or like you said, mom and dad would kind of go, "You do what?" and to watching what's happening out there now. What was that like for you?
Well, it was a breath of fresh air, actually. I mean, this culture itself, yes, it was considered a subculture to see the door that was basically, opening slowly but surely, but somebody then kicking it open, to really seeing it explode. Speaking of which, I'm terrible with names. Speaking with my partner here on the radio program, a lot of people would remember Batgirl from the original Adam West series. That's where
early Adam West episodes, yeah.
Yeah, I've had.
That's where Batgirl came from.
Yeah, I've had people tell me that older people that they remember Batgirl from that show. Yeah, so that's
yes.
Some people's original idea when they think of the character. And now, because I do the newer version, I do the New 52/Rebirth version, not everybody's familiar with that version of the character too.
Of course.
They've made her a lot more streamlined, a lot more, in my opinion, realistic to what you would see in real life. Because if somebody's running around, jumping across buildings, I mean, they're not necessarily going to wear like this tight spandex costume. And in the comics, part of her story is that she made it herself. So
that's one of the great things. That's one of the great things about cosplay that we see today. Again, as we have mainstreamed, as we have seen more and more acceptance, one of the great things to see has been the immense diversity in cosplay, and not just the people in the costumes and how diverse the geekdom is, and because that's a topic that could take us days and hours and weeks. But the diversity of the characters themselves, there's so many variations on a single theme. So many Batmans, so many Batgirls, so many... And,
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but
please.
Also people who do original characters.
Yes.
You're talking about people who played Dungeons and Dragons and things like that. I mean, there was one of our first interviews was Khrushchev the Giant Robot. He created his entire cosplay out of nothing but discarded the old pieces from computer boxes, the styrofoam stuff. And I wore part of his costume to bring it downstairs, and he was on the back. His back was weighing about 30 to 40 pounds.
Wow!
And it was about almost 9 feet tall. It took him 3 hours to walk from point A to point B because everybody was taking photos.
Yeah, a couple of years ago we ran into a cosplayer out at WonderCon in LA who was cosplaying a character. She was an author and she was cosplaying a character from one of her books, and it was absolutely stunning. It was really amazing, and so we have seen a huge growth in the diversity of cosplay that's out there. What is Katrina for you?
Hang on a second.
Yeah. Please
jump back. I just wanted to finish up a point there. One of the things for people like Katrina, when I first met her out there, is that people when we were discussing it, when I first met cosplayers, people were either very receptive to going, hey, you know what, this is what I'm dressed as, or what do I do? Or B, they kind of like, well, you don't know what, if you don't know what I'm wearing, then you shouldn't be bothering me. And I like it because I consider what I call the table piece, on the dinner table piece, because it is something to talk about. It opens up the conversation. Who are you? What is it? And I want to learn more about it. But I think people sometimes get scared because they don't know what they're looking at, and they feel like, and it does make them feel like, oh, I don't know something about this. Should I even talk to this person about it? But people like Katrina, they're fun to be with because they geek out. They're the ones who are at the table going, oh, I want to tell you more about my story. Let me bring you into my story and why I'm wearing this and why you should.
Yeah, it has been one of the greatest things as we've traveled around is the openness of this community. Yeah, Joshua, that goes to you.
And when we first did the documentary, when we were first filming it, we'd ask people if they want to be in the documentary. And I mean, we did neutral questions that are easy to be answered, but then you'd feel from my perspective, my business partner, Mr. Ook Lee, who is is traveling at the moment.
We just heard, for everybody out there on the radio, in the last 5 minutes or so, we may get to hear from Ook. He actually just texted, and he is looking for a spot to sign on because he just doesn't want to miss out.
He just landed in Texas.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so Mr. Ook Lee himself, I mean, he traveled across the globe, and there's stuff that we have not shown in this documentary, but in future documentaries we're going to explain.
Well, that's one of the questions that I had for you. Are you guys working on more? Are you guys working on telling more of the cosplay story?
Yes, I mean, we had some. Now, if you think about it, we had some trouble in France. French cosplayers are very, very, very. They're very secretive. They don't like having people come up into in their world per se. Well, they do, but they don't. It's a double-edged sword per se. But when we explained and we showed them what we were doing, they opened up, and we had an explosion of people in France, and then finding out that there's even cosplayers in Iraq, there's cosplayers in Iran, there's cosplayers in Afghanistan. And when I first opened up the analytics in YouTube at the very beginning, there was an explosion, of course, North America, Japan, but there were some people in Afghanistan, Iraq, Russia, a lot of Russia, France, Germany, England, and that sort of stuff. So cosplaying is not just it's a global community.
Oh, it has. We've seen it all around the world. It is a global phenomenon, a growing community, and as Christian alluded to earlier, it is one of the most open and inviting artistic communities that we've encountered. It's so amazing when you speak with cosplayers. They want to share their stories. They want to share their inspirations. They want to share whatever bit of pop culture or fandom that they are on display, that they have on display. It's an amazing thing. Katrina, how have you found the cosplay community as you've grown and it's grown? Is that an accurate perception? Have you found that to be the case?
Before I got into cosplay as heavily as I am now, I would say that most of the other groups that I was a part of didn't have this level of acceptance. I would say that, as it becomes a growing group, you do have increasingly people who are less open-minded, but that's going to kind of happen with any group that kind of expands. I say overall, this is one of the best groups of people out there. The most giving, the most diverse, and overall, it's honestly a group of people that you should definitely be proud to be a part of if you are a cosplayer yourself.
Well,
sure.
We are here at the Hangin With Web Show. We are very proud to have been embraced by the cosplay community, even though we don't cosplay, and we are always proud to be a part of this community through Cosplay Michael, because starting out so small and so energetic, that's a good word for annoying. This community embraced.
It's hereditary.
Yeah, it is.
Not the annoying.
It's on me. This community embraced this little tiny guy, and in a way that was exceptionally heartwarming for his mom and I, and for his whole family to see that. In any other thing that he had chosen to do, I think somebody would have patted him on the head and, mussed his hair up a little bit and said, "Go away, kid, you bother me."
But he got it. He got the difference between, just, going out on Halloween once a year and then actual cosplay, because he's
And that was this community. That was all of these adult cosplayers.
All of the people who embraced him, and to the point where he's like, "What color are Han Solo's socks?" It really was, because it's important.
Joshua, as you were traveling around and you relayed the story from France and how difficult it was to break into the community there. How did you find the community as a non-cosplayer doing this documentary film about this phenomenon? Did you find the community very accepting? Did you find them very welcoming as you guys went around and traveled?
Yes, actually. To really tell the story about cosplaying and that sort of stuff, like I said, in a way, I'm the outsider looking in. But and my business partner, who is a cosplayer, Mr. Oakley, he is a cosplayer. So to have opposite sides of the same coin, per se, and but to show to people that this is not just a fad. Oh, this is a fad, that sort of stuff. It's not like what happened with baseball cards and comic books back in we all know what happened to comic books. They thought it was going to be the next stock market thing, and it
really was. It was, we saw a huge upward trend and then a huge bust. That almost took away some of our most beloved characters and stories. They almost vanished forever in that. Yeah. So it is interesting to hear, the history of this particular art form and how it has evolved. And that it's here to, not only has it been here for a very long time in human history, but it's here to stay as a part of our culture, which is fantastic. We are down to about 4 minutes, guys, so we're going to have to try to wrap it up here a little bit. We do want to thank Joshua very much for coming on the show tonight. We want to thank Katrina very much. You guys have been amazing. We could talk cosplay for hours and hours, and I am sure during the course of the Hangin' With Web Show radio hour, we will do just that because we love talking to you guys. So you can catch the Hangin' With Web Show team out at MegaCon. If you're listening to this, right now, what you need to do is listen to the show, and then immediately go online, grab your tickets, and come out tomorrow morning and watch us. We're going to be interviewing authors, artists, filmmakers, cosplayers, musicians, you name it. We are going to hit everybody in pop culture in a 4-day extravaganza. So you can find us at booth 3615 at MegaCon Orlando, Florida. Katrina, are you going to be at MegaCon this weekend?
Oh, yes. We'll be there all 4 days. We're also promoting the Moshi Moshi After Party. I will be at it with the Powwow Show and the Shepherd also at their booths.
Outstanding. Get by and check out Katrina's cosplays and also find out more about that Moshi Moshi After Party where you can hang out with Katrina and our good friends over at the Kitchen Killers and I can't even list all the friends and the fantastic community that's going to gather at this party. So find out more about that. You can find out at the Hangin' With Web Show table. You can also find out over with the Powwow Show group and with Katrina and the gang. So, Christian, any final thoughts? What do you got going on, man?
Yeah, well, we're going to be at MegaCon, and I'm giving everybody a challenge thanks to the Space Coast Cosplay and Props Facebook site. They are giving a challenge to every cosplayer, and this includes you two, to come out and get a picture with the Traveling TARDIS. We're going to try to have the most cosplayer photos ever. Vincent and I, as we discussed last week, he's doing a special Deadpool for us that he and I came up with, so you definitely want to check him out because he's going to take on some Avengers as Deadpool, and you'll have to see why.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but is it going to be Dr. Poole?
No.
It's an excellent idea. That's not the one, though. It's top secret.
You're on my level of thought, but it's not
We have got to call it a night. We want to thank our partners and our friends at Famous Faces and Funnies, at Off the Chain Radio with Amon Mason, at Krypton Radio, and some of the fantastic authors and creators that have sponsored the show and helped us out here. So thank you all so much for that. Thank you to Katrina Texador and to Joshua Adams for being on the show tonight from Cosplayer Nation. We're going to put links down in our description so you could find those guys online. We love them, so I hope you guys will too. we're going to wrap it up here, and we're going to let y'all know we'll be back next week, Thursdays at 7 p.m. on Krypton Radio, 8 p.m. on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, iTunes, etc. So check us out and check out some amazing creators. Until then, guys, just stay logged on, stay tuned in, and come back and see who we're hanging with next. Yeah.